Hello, my name is Jeroen and today's talk is on EBSI. EBSI uses blockchain and is used to create an infrastructure across EU member states. That sounds pretty boring, especially when you look at the picture, the photo. You see these people involved in a very boring meeting, but it's not boring at all. In fact, it could be a groundbreaking initiative to make personal credentials available for all in the EU in a self-sovereign way. And this is important for the EU because they want to create an open market for EU citizens, not restricted by all kinds of specific systems that are available in different countries, but that there is the same playing field for every citizen in the EU. Okay, let's start with a short list. Nice animation with what we're going to cover in this short presentation. We're going to start with what is EBSI, a number of use cases, part of the EBSI infrastructure, what's next for the EBSI project, and some concluding remarks. Okay, let's start. What is EBSI? It took me a while to understand what it is. At first I thought, is it something like Ethereum? But then for the EU with EBSI coins, are there any EBSI coins? Or is it a blockchain application for EU citizens? Can you speculate with it? Can you get rich with EBSI coins? Well, that's not the case. It's an infrastructure and it's a bit of an application. It supports the creation of cross-border applications that use public administration services. Every EU member country has its own public administration services systems. So, and that could be a problem when you go to another country. That's when you're going to another EU member state. And what EBSI tries to do is that they do something on top of these public administration services that are specific for a country. EBSI has two parents, the European Commission and the European Blockchain Partnership. If you want to know more about that, please check the EBSI website. It's a rather young project. It started in 2018. Or it started in 2019, that would be more specific to say. So it's there for 3 years. And it has grown from version 1 in 2020 to version 2 in 2021. And there's now more a focus on use cases, on showing that it works. So the infrastructure is there. A version of the infrastructure is there. There will be new versions, of course. But now they want to demonstrate the use cases on top of that infrastructure. Okay, EBSI use cases. Let's start with a short example. And the example is has to do with the challenge that we all have in Europe. We have countries with different registrations and governmental systems. Connecting one-to-one is infeasible because you would do a lot of work. So isn't there another way of making to unify the systems? And EBSI is an effort to create a layer on top of these existing governmental systems, and it's therefore a kind of schema balancing effort. It needs to cover all the different country-specific data demands, but it also needs to cover the different application demands that are built on top of the EBSI infrastructure. On this slide you see an example. There is a citizen from an EU member state that adds data to an EBSI approved wallet. Student in Portugal that stores a diploma in an EBSI approved wallet. Then the student goes to a different country, the Netherlands in this case, and applies for a study at the university. And the university says, okay, cool, that you're going to be a student at our university. Please show me that you have a diploma. The student opens the diploma And because the data of the diploma is in an EBSI approval wallet, the university can be assured that this data is trustworthy. So there's no need for the university to check with a system in Portugal whether this diploma is really existing. The fact that it is in the EBSI wallet is proof enough for the university in the Netherlands to accept the application of this student. And the data in the wallet of the student is under control of the student. So the student is the one who decides whether this data leaves the wallet or not. So it's self-sovereign. Very important thing to create trust in this infrastructure. Okay, that's a short self-sovereign based use case example. EBSI identifies 4 use case areas at the moment. There's the self-sovereign identity use case, which is aimed at verification of who you are across EU member states. Then there is the EU Social Security Pass use case. This is the identification of mobile workers, and it's aimed at to prevent social fraud and undeclared work. So people illegally doing things in different countries is trying to be prevented by this EU Social Security Pass. Then there is the diploma use case. That's the example that I showed you in the previous slide. And there is a document traceability use case, which is aimed at automating compliancy check with documents. There are more use cases to come, like trust data sharing, small and medium enterprise financing, and asylum process management. So there's a lot more to come, of course. Once you have the general idea of how this system should work, then could be a very long and large list of use cases come to mind. Let's hop over to the EBSI infrastructure. EBSI is a public permissioned blockchain infrastructure with 36 plus nodes. I'm not sure if this is completely correct because this data is a little bit old. And these nodes are Hyperledger Fabric or Hyperledger Besu nodes. It's the first EU-wide blockchain infrastructure. It's driven by the public sector, and it tries to respect all European values. European values sound very good. But you think about European values like the GDPR, for instance. The platform has been designed as a market-friendly ecosystem based on open standards and a transparent governance model. There are 5 fundamental principles that are in mind while creating this infrastructure. Working towards the public good, well-defined governance, data harmonization between all participants, open source software, and compliance with relevant EU regulations. An important part of the EBSI infrastructure are wallets. That's the thing where you store the data in as a user. And wallets need to be compliant. Compliant means they are created according to EBSI standards. The idea is you store your data in your wallet. Once it is in your wallet, you decide with whom you share your data. The user, the citizen, is in control. And the other idea is that once it is in your wallet, the verifying party, like the university in the example, can be assured that your data is trustworthy. Here's an example of a wallet by an Austrian company, Vault ID. And it's very simple. These wallets are very simple things. Just a list of things. So the magic is not in the contents of the wallet. The magical part is, of course, how it gets into the wallet and out of the wallet. Okay, with a little bit more abstraction, let's look at EBSI from outer space. What is it? How should you look at it? That depends on where you are. In this picture, when you are a member state, you could say that you could see EBSI as an infrastructure in which you connect your existing governmental system to. So you publish data that is in your local country-specific registration, and you publish that in a blockchain node. The blockchain layer is a sort of abstraction layer. The benefit for application builders is that they only need to connect to this abstraction layer, to this EBSI blockchain layer, and it gives them indirectly access to the data that comes from country-specific systems. Very cool and very nice. So for developers, in this diagram, the people who create applications, EBSI is an API. It's where you ask data and you get data from. This is a conceptual architectural diagram according to EBSI, and there are a few interesting things. This is too specific to go in depth here, but the interesting things, it's pluggable protocols, for instance. It refers to a blockchain agnostic approach. So there's not one blockchain system that is in favor for EBSI, but it should be able to grow with new protocols to come. And there are now two smart contracting flavors in this diagram, Fabric and Ethereum. And the nodes, as I stated before, could be Hyperledger Besu or Hyperledger Fabric nodes. Well, as I told you also before, developers could look at EBSI as a kind of API. So there is a lot of API documentation, Swagger documentation, and these APIs provide data that your application can trust. A special case could be if you as a developer want to build a EBSI compliant wallet that needs to be created according to EBSI specification. Okay, there is a large list of all kinds of resources that you can find online. Documentation, examples, learning materials, repositories. You can download and install it. It's a large space to explore. Okay. What is next for EBSI? There's a couple of things that I would like to share with you. This is actually not very new, but it is from a year ago that the IOTA Foundation could be one of the is probably going to build IOTA nodes for the EBSI infrastructure. It's interesting. They could be used because these IOTA nodes require less energy than other blockchain frameworks. But in order to be able to do that, there's a need to have an ISCP, the IOTA Smart Contracts Protocol, in place. And that's something that the IOTA Foundation at the moment is working on, and it's not completely out there. There's some version out there, if I understand it correctly. A few weeks ago, there was the EBSI Demo Day. And the tagline for this demo day, how can EBSI help citizens study, find a job, and start new lives abroad? As you understand by now, that's the general idea of the EBSI project. And I attended this demo day, very interesting, very long day, of course. A lot of all kinds of use cases doing a demonstration. You can look at it. It's there's a video on YouTube that you can look. The remarkable thing is that the complete day, there was around 300 or 400 attendees looking at this EBSI demo day. I found that a very high number. I think that is because a lot of people think, okay, this would be a very good idea for Europe to have, so that we have this abstraction layer on top of all these systems that we can plug into, and that will make life make life better, to say so. Okay, some concluding remarks. You could say that EBSI is an abstraction layer that unifies country-specific administration, and it helps to overcome the diversity in all kinds of systems and things that we have organized in a country-specific way. The self-sovereign exchange of data is important to gain user acceptance. Your data as a citizen is not on the street, but you can control it, who you share it with. And for verifiers, trustworthy in your data in your wallet speeds up verification, very important. Okay, that was it. I hope you enjoyed this short introduction into EBSI, and see you around.